This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends, available on iOS and Android. And we are back for the Season 8, Episode 6, Unserious Q&A. Before we get into things, I wanted to do a quick channel update. The second half of my full season review is coming along, and you should see that next. And after that, we'll do my Season 8 fixed videos. That's where I outline what I would have done for this final season. And then we'll go back to the multiple series that were interrupted by Season 8. Night's Watch will continue, as will Prepping for Winter, and my podcasting with Carmine on Fire and Blood. And there will probably be another Easter egg and reference video, and I have a few other ideas tumbling around in my head. Way too many ideas, really. Far too many to actually do. And I'm still trying to write that book. Damn it. Anyway, before we get into the Q&A, first a word from our sponsor. In case you've been living under a rock for the last couple months, Raid is a brand new collection RPG game. It has an amazing storyline, awesome 3D graphics, giant boss fights, and more than 400 champions for you to collect and personally customize. The amazing thing is that the game will remind you of the classical RPG and strategy games, with the added bonus that it's now on your phone. Enjoy crazy battles and events that will keep you hooked for hours, not to mention the crazy level of detail on all of these champions. The title's presentation and stories are comparable to AAA console releases, but the game is free to play, and it has an almost perfect score at the Google Play Store. The game is growing super fast and expect to see a huge update this month, which will be pure fun for new players. You can find me in the game with the nickname Sweet Robin, and if you're quick enough, you can join my clan, the Knights of the Vale. So what are you waiting for? Go to the video description, click on the special links, and you will instantly get 50,000 silver and a free epic champion to start your journey. Good luck, and I'll see you there. And now on to the Q&A. Is Bran the younger and more beautiful queen that Maggie the Frog spoke of? So there have been a lot of weird, crazy interpretations of the Maggie the Frog prophecy, but if we stop and have a look at the words of the prophecy closely, things come into view pretty clearly. So Maggie says, "Oh yes, you'll be queen for a time, then comes another." Now pay attention to the timing of events in that. It's rather clear from Maggie's words that Cersei will be queen and then stop being queen, and then another queen will come along. Since Cersei didn't stop being queen until after her death, this actually eliminates many of the people that are traditionally thought of as the queen in question. Marjorie and Dany were actually queen concurrently with Cersei, so they can't be the queen who then comes along after Cersei is queen. So with those queens eliminated, who else is there? Well, there are people like Sansa, Bran, and Yara, but they never actually cast Cersei down and took anything that she held dear, so they aren't right either. So who on earth could the queen in question be? Well, based on the prophecy, the only culprit who fits 100% is a queen ant. A queen ant is certainly younger and more beautiful, and ants are known to move into areas devastated by fires because of the large open spaces. And casting down and taking what Cersei holds dear, well, that's clearly ants taking little bits of her and Jaime and bringing them down into the ground. She is literally being cast down into the earth. Also, we should remember that after the deaths of Cersei and Jaime, the Unsullied take control of the city and keep Tyrion in jail. And Cersei and Jaime's bodies were hidden behind rubble. There is absolutely no one around to give them a proper burial. So of course, ants consumed Jaime and Cersei. Drogon showed how smart he is last episode. What do you think he plans to do with Dany's body? Well, the final scene of Drogon is a bit mysterious, but if we put all of the pieces together, I think we can figure out what's going on. So in a huge surprise, we find out that Drogon is rather intelligent, knowing what monarchy is, disliking it as a system, and realizing that the Iron Throne is a symbol of that. Of course, now knowing Drogon is a rational being and holds all of these beliefs, we have to ask, why did Drogon participate in Dany's pursuit of the Iron Throne in the first place? The event led to the death of his mother and siblings. What was he thinking? How was all of this in his best interest? Well, to answer this, I think it's important to point out that there's a clear parallel to Drogon and Bran at the end of the series. Bran, too, is super intelligent and participated in actions that were to the detriment of his family. And his rise led to the destruction of the Iron Throne metaphorically, while Drogon, on the other hand, did it literally. The characters are also paired with their births being at the opposite ends of the world, and we should remember that Bran's main concern is to find Drogon, his literary twin. And so, accepting that the two characters of Drogon and Bran are paired, we can explore whether Drogon, like Bran, is also pursuing power at the expense of others, just like Bran was. So how do Drogon's actions achieve power? And what does Dany dying have to do with this? Well, obviously Dany dying frees him of a master, but there seems to be more to this. It's very clear that Dany's body is part of Drogon's plan. After all, he wouldn't have taken it with him, flying for hundreds of miles, if it were extraneous. Additionally, there may be a clue in where Drogon is flying. He's heading back to Essos, a land where Dany is still very popular. Remember, we have thousands of R'hllor followers and freed slaves who are willing to follow Dany as their leader. The only logical conclusion on what Drogon is up to is that he plans on propping Dany's corpse upon his back and parading her around in order to give heart to and rally Dany's followers for the war to come. And if you recall, similar things were done in the book. Garland poses as Renly's ghost, and King Cleon's corpse was propped up at Astapor. Not to mention Jon Snow himself was a corpse leader of an army that retook Winterfell. Drogon, it seems, wants to eventually conquer the Seven Kingdoms and rule it through his puppet, the corpse of Dany, weakened at Bernie's style. Have we ever seen a Dothraki baby before? Did they reproduce through mitosis? That would explain how they survived the long night. Well, no, Dothraki are normal people, and I am reminded of the saying that women give birth in roughly the same position as they have sex. So for Dothraki, this means publicly standing up in the streets. But this does bring up an interesting subject, that of gender disparity in society. So in many cultures throughout history, warfare often brought about a large disparity in the number of men available for women to couple with. With men dying or marching off to a foreign land, women are left alone. In the Middle East, this was rectified with polygamy, which acted in part as a social security system to deal with excess orphans, widows, and other surplus people who would normally have no one to marry or care for them. And what we saw in Game of Thrones with the Dothraki was this system in the extreme. Keep in mind, Dany took nearly every healthy man of fighting age with her, leaving the Dothraki women with only the old, injured, and very young males. Yes, a few remaining Dothraki men will certainly take advantage of the disparity to some degree, but there should be literally 100,000 Dothraki women looking for husbands. What is brewing is almost certainly a Rape of Sabine situation, with the Dothraki women being forced to invade Lazar to kidnap men. Meanwhile, back in Westeros, there will also be a huge demand for men after all of these wars. And this will not just be to marry the single women, but to work all of the farmland now that spring is upon them. And this situation will be further aggravated by the fact that many men will need to migrate to King's Landing to rebuild the city. What is almost certain to happen is a massive courting process with significant dowries for Dany's single Dothraki. They are the most eligible bachelors in Westeros. What happened to Jiqui in the Epilogue? Well, if you paid attention to the end of Season 7 watch, you should know exactly what happened to Jiqui. But if you don't remember, I have the link below. If Dany said she was going to break the wheel, why did someone with wheels end up becoming king? Symbolic? It is true that Dany didn't break any wheels, and even if we go metaphorical, the new system of electing kings will just rotate the wheel faster. There's certainly no breaking of the wheel. And that's the thing, Dany is essentially an opposite prophet. Almost nothing she says becomes true. For example, I went online and I found these famous Daenerys quotes. Number 1. Not a queen, a Khaleesi. Yeah, a queen is a Khaleesi, they're the same thing, you're a queen. So, false. Number 2. I am a Khaleesi of the Dothraki. I am the wife of the great Khal, and I carry his son inside me. The next time you raise a hand to me will be the last time you have hands. Well, the last time Viserys had hands, he was in a grave rotting. And he didn't raise them at that point, so again, false. Number 3. My sun and stars. No, Khal Drogo was a person, not giant masses of plasma, so false. Number 4. When the sun rises in the west and sets in the east, then you shall return to me, my sun and stars. Never happened, so false. Number 5. I am Daenerys Stormborn of House Targaryen, of the blood of old Valyria. I am the dragon's daughter, and I swear to you that those who would harm you will die screaming. Dany's first Khalasar actually disappeared, so she protected no one, so false. Number 6. Do you understand? I'm no ordinary woman, my dreams come true. Dany dreamed meeting Khal Drogo north of the Wall, so false. Number 7. I am not your little princess, I am Daenerys Stormborn of the blood of old Valyria, and I will take what is mine, with fire and blood I will take it. Well, Dany never successfully conquered all of Westeros, so no. One could say she's the queen of false. Number 8. Yes, all men must die, but we are not men. No, all women must die too, in fact Dany dies, so she is the Khaleesi of the Great Grass False. Number 9. We have 200,000 reasons to take the city. A reason is actually a rationale or an explanation. Needing to save person 1 and needing to save person 2 aren't separate reasons in any way. So she is a breaker of truth. Number 10. I will not let those I have freed slide back into chains. I will not sail for Westeros. I will do what queens do. I will rule. Well, actually, Yunkai and Astapor did reinstate slavery after this, so we can say that Dany is the untruthful. Number 11. They can live in my new world, or they can die in their old one. Everyone ends up living in Dario's world, so she's the protector of the false. Number 12. If I give everyone what they deserve, I'll have no one left to rule. Well, she would still have innocent babies, so false. Number 13. Lannister, Targaryen, Baratheon, Stark, Tyrell, they're all just spokes on a wheel. This one's on top, then that one's on top, and on it spins, crushing those on the ground. I'm not going to stop the wheel, I'm going to break the wheel. We already talked about this one, false. Number 14. You are small men, none of you are fit to lead the Dothraki, but I am, so I will. Leading the Dothraki doesn't seem all that difficult, and these guys have plenty of experience. I'm sure any of them would be adequate calls, so false. Number 15. Our fathers were evil men, all of us here. They left the world worse than they found it. We're not going to do that. We're going to leave the world better than we found it. Well, when Theon left the world, the Night's King was on his way to victory, and when Dany left the world, she just burned a city to the ground, so false. I mean, I could seriously do this all day. I'm sure you guys get the point. In fact, I don't think Dany has said a single truthful thing in the entire series. If you'd like to prove me wrong, please post that quote in the comments. We know Arya has the power of killing people and taking their faces. Is it possible that this power extends to killing book characters and taking their plot lines? How many has she killed? Lady Stoneheart and her Frey plot? Gilbert Farwind and Sailing West? Where does it end? It is true that Arya is a growing force of identity stealing that goes well beyond faces but into plot lines, and it doesn't end. The outlook on the future is not good, really. You see, eventually Arya will absorb the Bran plotline, and then she'll have the ability to travel through time and absorb every plotline that ever was. We have to accept that eventually the first episode of the series will have Arya abandoning the Night's Watch after an attack from Arya north of the Wall. Arya is then caught and executed by Arya, but on the way home, a dead Arya is found in the snow with 6 young Aryas, one for each of Arya's 6 children. Arya then discovers that Arya has died, and Arya is on her way north to make Arya hand. There's a great feast for Arya's arrival, and Arya tells Arya about her interest in joining the Night's Watch. Arya takes Arya down to the crypts, lamenting the death of Arya, and wishes to marry her daughter Arya to Arya's daughter Arya. Meanwhile, across the Narrow Sea, Arya is marrying off Arya to Arya in order to get a hold of 40,000 screaming Aryas to retake the 7 kingdoms. The episode will end with Arya finding Arya having sex with Arya, leading to Arya pushing Arya from a window. In the long end, would Westeros have been better off if Joffrey was never poisoned? Well, it's certainly difficult to imagine all of the moving pieces, but the most significant aspect of Joffrey not dying is that Tyrion never gets accused of murder and is never exiled, and Tywin doesn't die. Or at least all of this gets delayed. Nonetheless, and rather significantly, this means that Cersei never sends Mace Tyrell to Braavos, which means Arya never kills Meryn Trant and is not blinded. And if not blinded, it means she never gains a skill set to defeat the Waif. Which means Walder Frey is not murdered and Edmure is never released. Which means, and this is assuming Dany still invades and kills all of the Lannisters and is assassinated for destroying the city, likely by Varys in this timeline, we would have a final council at the end where not Edmure is there, but Walder Frey, and he would most certainly bully everyone, including the new king, into marrying all of his daughters and granddaughters. And so in the end, everyone would be connected to House Frey by marriage, and there would be peace. So yes, I would say the world would be much better off if Joffrey was never poisoned. And that's all the questions for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time with my Season 8 review.